So one of you guys actually commented this on the last video and said, I think it's time to take away the way too early part in the way too early AFL trade titles for these videos, because let's all be honest here, it's not really way too early anymore. We are nearing the end of the season, and this is actual AFL trade news going into the 2025 AFL off-season, the 2025 AFL trade period. This is actual trade news that is, of course, going around, and again, a lot of it is actually, not only is most of it really interesting, but there is a lot going on with a ton of different things that we have seen so far. Again, first and foremost, one of the things I wanted to talk about is, again, I made a video on it a couple of, days ago, maybe even a week ago at this point, when it comes out, but I was actually talking about the massive Charlie Curnow rumors that we have been hearing. Again, Tom Morris, of course, went on, Nine and whatnot and said that he believes that Charlie Curnow has been in negotiations with Gold Coast for a little bit, that he's potentially interested in maybe going to Geelong and Sydney. Again, a lot of different reasons for this. Again, one, he wants to get out of the really big Melbourne footy bubble. And two, Carlton absolutely suck big, hairy donkey nuts. And again, I'm probably going to be heading into a massive rebuild, and Charlie Curnow may be looking at his opportunities elsewhere. Again, we heard, of course, all of that. It was even reported on like SEN a month ago. There was something happening, and we just didn't know what it was until now. All of the above. But again, Charlie Curnow was actually interviewed recently and said he is playing at Carlton next year. Riley Beveridge saying that Charlie Curnow is emphatic on his future, speaking to reporters post-game, saying, I obviously want to be here. I don't really want to make this about me, but I'm playing at Carlton next year. There you go. Done. Now again, is this enough concrete evidence to say that Charlie Curnow is going to be at the Carlton Football Club next year? No, it's not. In fact, there have been multiple other sources saying that the ball has already been in movement now for Charlie Curnow, literally for a month or two of him just talking to other teams and assessing what his potential, again, trade market might be and what he could get from another team in terms of contract-wise, the years, all the above, and what teams could potentially actually have the assets and cap to make this happen. Again, not only do we know all of that, but about this time last year, you had Daniel Rioli at Richmond saying he'll be at Tigers next year. You had Dan Houston at Port Adelaide saying he'll be at Port next year. Both of those guys ended up going. And the reality is, it's like, what else do you want Charlie Curnow to say? He's going to say, I'm going to be at Carlton next year. When in reality, whether he's going to be at Carlton or not next year, the truth is that he's been talking to teams for literally a month or two now, and Gold Coast have been a massive one. Geelong and Sydney, I think he's probably had conversations with as well, and don't be surprised if other teams slowly start to creep in too. Again, Curnow's been very, well, not public, but behind the scenes has been very much revealed that he doesn't want to play in a massive footy space. So obviously Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth, you are going to completely rule out. Fuck it, even when Tasmania get a team, those guys are going to be, they're going to be able to talk about as a footy club. Shit, I wouldn't even be surprised if Curnow wouldn't even want to go there. I think he wants to go to a really quiet spot. Again, I don't see Geelong being that. Sydney, I have no idea. I think they would actually be very good. But again, I think Gold Coast and Brisbane, to me, like Brisbane haven't really come into this yet, but Brisbane will be looking for a full forward. I think the only reality is the reason they haven't come into this yet is because I think the Oscar Allen thing is like almost done, and they would kind of feel bad if they took a back step on that. Plus, he's much younger than what Curnow is. So again, I don't know what's going on there, but I do think Curnow is exploring his options next year. Whether that means he's going to be traded or not, I think that him saying he's 100% going to be at Carlton next year is bullshit, because I do think there is going to be some doubt there. Again, some other news here. Of course, Marcus Bontempelli recently just signed a massive 4-year extension with the Western Bulldogs to make him pretty much a dog for life until Tasmania offer him $8 million a year to provide some leadership there. But he actually went on to say, and he's kind of recruiting right now, saying, I love watching him play, and if we happen to end up in the same team, I think I'd be pretty happy about that too. Marcus Bontempelli on Zak Butters. I hope we're in the situation, the football club, it looks potentially like a place he could see himself. Again, we've been hearing this for a little bit now, that Zak Butters is really interested in playing for the Western Bulldogs. Again, from what we are hearing, this is not going to happen now. This is going to be, again, we're hearing that Zak Butters is going to be staying at Port Adelaide, next year, and then he'll maybe look to leave after that if things don't improve or whatever it might be. Again, the reality is that a lot of teams are going to come for him. Richmond are going to have the most salary cap in the AFL, not only this year, but next year it's probably going to be even more. And I wouldn't be surprised if they looked to offer him, a massive deal. I think Essendon will be in the market for a guy like him. But the Western Bulldogs don't particularly make too much sense to me. I get that he went for the Western Bulldogs as a kid, which shouldn't mean anything because Tom Lynch went for Collingwood as a kid and he had the decision between Collingwood and Richmond, and he knew that Richmond had the brighter future and he picked them and got a couple more flags there. I mean, we know all of that. Like, that doesn't really mean anything if you go for a team, but apparently he's close with a lot of people at the Bulldogs. He's had conversations with people at the Bulldogs. I don't know. It doesn't even make any sense to me. It's not even a good fit. Like, the reality is the Dogs already have too many midfielders as it is. Again, they moved on Jack McRae last season. Bailey Smith left last season, and Josh Dunkley left a couple years before that. 3 of your better midfielders all gone in a couple years because they're so deep there. You got Bont, you got Libba, who are both getting older, to be fair. But then you've got Ed Richards, who's playing absolutely insane footy in there. Matthew Kennedy, Riley Sanders chips in. A couple other guys literally go in. It's like, how many midfielders do you need? Why would you not just go and spend the money on getting a key defender, which I think this team sorely needs, or an actual lockdown defender? Go and improve your backline, which has been not very good for a minute now, to say the least. Like, why would you not go and do that? I really don't understand the thought and philosophy behind all of that. But again, they're looking at Zak Butters. He's probably going to be getting a massive deal to go and play for the Western Bulldogs. Again, I just can't. I also think that Port Adelaide will be off. They'll have probably some of the most salary cap in the AFL next year too. Who's to say that he's actually going to leave? I mean, Port aren't screwed. Like, yeah, they're probably going to be going to the draft over the next couple of years before Tasmania come in. But it's not like they're completely cooked. They're going to have a new coach. You've still got Zak Butters, Horne-Francis, and Rosie in that midfield when Rosie probably goes back in there. Willem Drew's in there still. Again, you can retool this team over the next couple of years. Port have done it for many years. I don't see why Zak Butters is fully going to leave. And yeah, I don't know about that one. That's one I'm still really, really thinking about, and I don't know. So again, there's that. There's also a report here saying that Collingwood's offer is at least 4 years or more financially lucrative than the Carlton offer. So that's being reported by John Ralph on the Herald Sun about Jack Silvagni. Again, we've been knowing that Silvagni, he's been wanting to stay at Carlton, but they're only offering him like 2 years. And there have been some reports out there, little rumours here and there, that St Kilda and Collingwood could be looking to offer him 3 to 4. And I guess this one's kind of true now, because saying that Collingwood's offer is at least 4 years is more financially lucrative than the Carlton offer, which, I mean, does this not sound to you guys that Carlton are like trying to let him go at this point? I mean, they're letting De Koning go because they can't afford him straight up, because their salary cap is so cooked, but they're going to be getting a good pick out of him. Again, Carlton know they need to rebuild at this point because they are in a really, really bad situation. To me, it low-key kind of sounds like they might be letting Silvagni leave, and if he gets a big offer from Collingwood, could be another, like, really good compensation pick. So they could be getting, again, the band 1 compensation pick for De Koning, and they'll be getting I'm going to assume a band 1 or band 2 out of Silvagni. I think it will probably be band 1 as well if they were to let him leave. Again, where they finish on the ladder, their pick's going to go with where they are. So let's just say they finish freaking 12th, right? They're going to get the band 1 for De Koning. They'll be like pick 6. And then for Silvagni, it will be, again, like pick 19. It'll be at the end of the first round because you don't get two right next to each other. It's just not how it works in the AFL. But getting pick 6 and like 19 from absolutely having nothing right now is pretty good. But you're going to lose like two top, 5 guys probably in the best and fairest this year. And that's absolutely insane to think. But I mean, yeah, it's just probably what they need to do. And it low-key sounds like they're kind of letting him go here. Again, I don't really know the ins and outs on that. But Collingwood, I mean, how good will Silvagni be for their team if they were able to get him? I don't even know how they have the salary cap to make this happen. That sounds absolutely insane to me. So, again, is Silvagni going to leave? I don't know. But if he was to go to Collingwood, imagine the uproar. Imagine the boos that he would be getting, like, every single game. It would just be crazy. But realistically, let's just say that Collingwood do have this infinite salary cap glitch, which I truly don't understand how they are completely making this work. The reality is that Silvagni would be a great option. Again, he is a little bit going on the older side now. I'm assuming Collingwood would have probably preferred him to be a little bit younger. But the reality is that Collingwood know their window is open for quite a little bit now. And when they won the premiership last time, I think they probably didn't retool like they probably wanted to. They brought in Lachie Schultz, and Lachie Schultz wasn't a good player last year. But then this year, they were able to bring in Tim Membry. They were able to bring in Dan Houston. They were able to bring in Harry Perryman. And you arguably brought in Lachie Schultz as well because he just came in as a much better player this season. Again, you were able to bring 3 to 4 new players in, basically, and you retooled really well. It's not like all of those guys were really, really expensive. Harry Perryman was slightly over the average, and Tim Membry probably signed some freaking veteran minimum type shit. Again, Dan Houston would have been a lot of money, but the reality is they probably got him on a pay cut just because he got to play for, the biggest team pretty much in the AFL. So he would have taken a pay cut. Very similar to how so many players have taken pay cuts to get to Richmond. He probably would have done a very similar thing at Collingwood. So the reality is that they might not be paying these guys as much as we ultimately think that they are, meaning that Silvagni, it leaves room to continue to attack free agency and continue to attack the trade period. Again, Collingwood have done a fantastic job at bringing in just random players to help out their cause. Again, Tim Membry was a big one. We all thought his footy career was kind of done. But we got to remember, they brought in Long from Hawthorn, I think, as a delisted player, and he's come in and played most of the season and fit in a real fantastic role. Here's another guy I kind of forgot to mention. Also brought in, again, Pat Lipinski from a couple years ago, who was playing some VFL and wasn't getting a game at the Dogs. Again, I really do think, Collingwood's strategy of things is this really big, Moneyball type strategy. It's like kind of the movie where, they bring in a couple big name players like Perryman and Houston were massive names last year. But Membry, Long, and Lipinski, probably a couple others here and there. None of these guys were massive, massive names, and they all brought him in to play a role, and they were all able to come and do that. It was literally like the movie. So Silvagni, to me, will just be the tip of the iceberg so far if they can make this happen. There will be, in my opinion, other guys that they will potentially look to try and get. Don't be surprised if they, go to Silvagni and be like, look, if you're getting an offer of, $700K a year, or it's probably $600K a year from Carlton over a couple years. Collingwood are probably like, look, we'll give you more money than that, but we're going to give you a lot more years just to make it, just to get you to the team, make you feel more comfortable, give you an actual reason to leave Carlton and join the rival. And they know that this guy, if they gave him 4 years, 28 to 32, mate, that's perfect for Collingwood, because with their record of having players just completely continue to outlast their original contracts and, again, continue to go into an older age like Sidebottom, Howe, and Pendlebury, it's just, they're going to back themselves in to probably think they can get Silvagni to go to freaking 34 years of age or something crazy like that. Wouldn't even be surprised if Collingwood can manage. So I'm intrigued to see how Collingwood's off-season actually will go, because, again, we know it's still pretty far away, finals, like it's still a couple weeks away, but whether they win the flag or not, I think their direction is going to be to hit the trade period and off-season pretty big and continue to top up on these players. Like, I wouldn't be surprised again if maybe Silvagni was their semi-big name that they brought in, someone like that. Then they brought in a delisted guy, like a Tim Membry from last year, and then they brought in, a guy who was on the fringe at some other team. Again, something like that, I think they're really going to focus on, and they're going to continue to do, because they know what the blueprint is now, and they know it's literally like copy and pasting the Moneyball movie. So I think they're going to continue to do that, and I think Silvagni would actually be a really good fit. Again, I actually saw this post the other day, and I thought it was really interesting, and obviously, as a massive Richmond fan, I want to make a video on it and kind of get your guys' thoughts and opinions on it in the comment section down below, because it's about another player that the Tigers could actually potentially trade for, and one that's a little bit interesting because technically this guy really fits their team and fits what they probably need. Again, it is saying, could Darcy Wilson be a Tiger target? Reports are coming out that Wilson is apparently frustrated with St Kilda. He's been dropped twice this year and subbed out twice. Word is that him and Ross Lyon don't see eye to eye either. This kid was unreal in his first year and is already one of the best runners in the AFL. Could he be a long-term replacement on the wing for Camden McIntosh? Again, I actually like a lot about what I'm hearing here. Again, I think that the Tigers have, and credit to Adam Uze here, because I think a lot of this has actually been Adam Uze and his coaching. I think the Tigers have actually done an insane job at finding players to play on the wing. And what I mean by that is that in 2020, probably to 2022, even earlier than that, 2017 to 2022, Richmond had the best wings in the competition. Again, it's one of the reasons they were able to win 3 flags, is because they had so many elite players play on the wing in that time. Again, Kane Lambert on the wing, how he didn't make an All-Australian is insane. Shane Edwards played a lot of wing time here and there, who was an All-Australian. Brandon Ellis was a really good wing as well for the Tigers. Again, Marlon Pickett ended up winning a couple flags on the wing. Josh Caddy, how he wasn't an All-Australian his time as well. He played on the wing in 2019. Again, the Tigers had a bunch of wings, and I'm probably even forgetting a couple guys just off the top of my head. But once like 2023, and of course Camden McIntosh, the guy who was probably on the wing the most. Again, once 2023 came around, the Tigers' wings just started to regress really badly. McIntosh regressed a lot as a player. Marlon Pickett regressed a lot as a player. And then you went into 2024 and the Tigers just flat out didn't have any wings. Like, we were seeing all different types of guys play on there. Again, towards the end of the season, it kind of became Shugo Ralph-Smith and Jack Ross. And that was much better than the start of the year, where it was like Marlon Pickett, Camden McIntosh, and whoever the hell else they would throw on the wings. They didn't have anyone else. Again, they've also built on that even more in 2025 now. Again, Shugo Ralph-Smith has looked pretty good on the wing. Ross has played a lot of wing time. Thompson Dow actually got moved to the wing and was playing the best footy of his career. Luke Traynor is now playing on the wing as well, and again, won the Rising Star on the wing, looking really good. And then Camden McIntosh is actually back on the wing again and playing much better footy than what he was last year, and I think even the year before that. So the Tigers have really retooled their wings, and I think a lot of that is because of Adam Uze. Again, there are rumours they're still going to be looking to hit the draft to maybe try and bring in a new wing, but we could have a new wing here through the trade period, especially if Darcy Wilson is not too keen on St Kilda and too keen on Ross Lyon. Again, I don't know where Darcy Wilson and what his career is going to look like in the AFL. Again, he played mostly forward last year and moved towards the wing, I think, towards the end of the season. Has played a lot of wing this year. I think he's even chipped into the inside midfield. But he honestly hasn't looked that great. There's been a lot of issues, and I don't think he's been able to show exactly everything that he can do. Again, I do find it a bit strange, though, a second-year player having issues with his coach and not seeing eye to eye with his coach. That is never a good sign. And most of the time, it's not the coach's fault. Again, 90% of the time, it's because the player is really inexperienced and just really disagreeing. You know, he was most likely a hot shot in his under 18s, coming in and not too happy with the coach and how his new position may be, how his new role has been. Again, we've all seen it before. It's happened for generations with players. Again, usually the players work it out with the coaches, but sometimes they don't. And unfortunately, sometimes it shows a lack of maturity in the players and a lack of discipline. But then there is that 10% time where the coach might be in the wrong. Again, Ross Lyon is a very, very big old school coach, and maybe some of the newer boys, you know, who are much younger, don't like the way his old school, you know, ways operate and don't understand it and don't feel it and don't agree with it. Again, that could be the reality of things. And I think if Richmond see that Darcy Wilson is in that 10% where maybe he's just a new school kind of player, he likes a more nicer and calm coach, which Adam Muse is, rather than an angry, hot shot, or more old-fashioned probably Ross Lyon, then maybe the Tigers should look at him. But if it's in the 90%, which it probably will be, if this guy is just not pulling his head in and disagreeing with the coach because the coach wants him to do things he's not completely comfortable with, then it's a tough one. And sometimes that shows lack of discipline, sometimes that shows a lack of maturity, and that could be what is happening to Darcy Wilson right now. It's also like, it's very early to make a call on Darcy Wilson because St Kilda selected him, I believe, as a first round pick, and they will see him as a first round pick and know he's going to be a very good player probably in the future, while Richmond are probably sitting there thinking, hold on a second, he's not getting a game, he's not what you thought he was probably going to be, he's having disagreements with the coach or whatever, we want him for a second round pick. And then that's where there's going to be issues, and St Kilda are going to be like, no, Richmond are going to be saying no, and then it's just going to be a whole issue. And that's one of the big things about trading for second year players and the players who have the second year blues, is that the teams who want him will argue, hey, he's not playing that good, let's get him for cheap. And the teams who, you know, who have him, who don't, you know, particularly want to see him leave for cheap, are going to say, look, he is only in his second year, what are you talking about? And it just becomes a merry-go-round of, you know, let's do this, let's do that. So there's a lot of ifs and buts in all of this. I don't see this happening personally. I think Darcy Wilson will stay at the Saints. He will have to see eye to eye with Ross Lyon soon enough, or his career will slowly dwindle out or fiddle out, I should say, and won't be the player he probably could have been. So he's going to definitely have to factor that in mind. And yeah, at the end of the day, this is one of those situations where we don't truly know the ifs and buts about what's happening behind the scene. But I actually think, to be honest, Darcy Wilson would be a very good fit for Richmond. Like, the reality is that they need some speed. They probably need a wing. They may even need another guy to play forward. You know, Steely Green's probably not it. I don't know how big of a fan I am of Ryan Mansell. All of the above. And if Darcy Wilson wants to look to go on the inside, Richmond needs some speed in the inside midfield as well. Yeah, there could be a lot of really good things for Darcy Wilson to look at here, but also a lot of good things for Richmond to look at here. Again, I'd very much like to hear all your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. What do you guys think is going to happen with all these, you know, the AFL trades, all of the above? Who's going to get traded? What's their value going to be? You know, I'd very much like to hear all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do not forget to go and subscribe to this channel for all latest sports content, and use my gaming/movie channel, which will also be getting linked in the description down below. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will be seeing you guys next time. Goodbye.